Welcome to Attican Plays Rise of Industry. All right, hi, this is Attican, and welcome to another Rise of Industry video. I promised myself I wasn't going to make any more planning tool spreadsheet videos for a while because I'm getting sick of them, and I'm sure you are too. But I had some exciting news, and I had to share it with you. We've had a major update to the planning tool, and I need to share that with you and get everybody using this new version. One of our little band, Aleksander Zarkov, is obviously a very strong Google Sheets programmer. And he took the spreadsheet that I had created and he added a bunch of stuff to it that were things that I was looking to add and just didn't have the time to do. And he did a wonderful job, better than I could have done, putting those things together. So let me share with you what he's added. Now, I'm going to leave the video that kind of walks through the basics of how to use this. I'm going to leave that other video up. I'm not going to replace it with this one. I'm going to just add this one, as an add-on, so to speak. So I'm not going to go totally through all the breakdowns of how you build the sets and all that stuff. But I want to focus this video on the new features in this spreadsheet and show you just how powerful this can be. So what Aleksander did, he added, first of all, the difficulty. So we've got the startup, which is the most difficult preset, the newcomer, which is the easiest, normal, and veteran, which is kind of between normal and startup in terms of being difficult. And I'm kind of showing you, I'll show you this in the context of, if you'll recall, the very first video I put out on Rise of Industry. I did a startup preset, which was the difficult one. And we started out in, I don't even remember the name of the town, but we started out, I wanted to intentionally start very slowly and methodically. So we started with one dough factory, if you'll recall. There was a demand for one every 15 days of dough, and we made one dough factory, and we did the research we needed, and we started producing dough and shipping it into our city. And what this spreadsheet now does is, besides just telling us what the buildings would cost, it also does a pass at the research. And Aleksander, if you're watching this, you'll notice several things I have tweaked or changed or whatever, hopefully for the better. We'll see. But the research now, what you can do is say, okay, I don't have to worry about research. I'm already covered. I don't need to worry if I've researched up to the item I'm about to add. So I can say, okay, just give me the research cost for that new item. Or I can say, no, I'm starting up. I need to know what the cost of all the research is going to be to get me to this product. Now, I will tell you the all need to do a little bit more work on the all to get the full picture of the research, but it'll give us an idea at this point of what the research is going to cost. And it's going to tell us the total cost of what it's going to take to put that together, do the buildings and the research. And of course, as we said before, you'll have to factor in, you're going to need to build some roads, you may do some terraforming, whatever. Your costs will be higher than this, but this will give you a baseline cost. Then we can look over here and see that we now know what does it cost. And this was great work Aleksander put in. What is it going to cost to upkeep our buildings? And then the dispatch is the cost for our vehicles, both to send them out the door and for them to drive specific distances. And what he's got over here are a couple of other fields that you can enter that are like the how far are you taking that final product, how many tiles. And if you recall, in the game, they actually do tell us, when you're setting up a line, it does tell you how far away something is in terms of tiles. And the basic, if you think of this is still built around our idea of building our little set or our cluster of buildings that work together to create dough. What's the average distance of tiles basically from the warehouse is kind of what it is. So how far do these things have to go? Each of these different vehicles, they have to go out and move flour to the warehouse, or get flour from the warehouse, or get water from the warehouse, or take water to the warehouse, all that kind of stuff. So, but I can tell you that you don't need to worry about these too much if you just kind of leave them the way they are by default. They'll give you a pretty good idea. Because, and let me show you what I mean. Our dispatch costs, if we said our final product was 50 tiles away, we get a dispatch cost of $19.5 each month. If I set it to 6 times that, to 300 tiles, a long way off, in other words, to some other city, this cost only goes up about $9,000. So in other words, this is not a giant factor. So don't beat yourself up or wear yourself out trying to get those figured out. But now we know our research. We know how much it costs. We have an idea of our dispatch costs and our monthly running costs. And then we can look to see what's our total cost, how much money do we have, can we afford to buy this or set this up, and if we can't, are we going to have to take a loan? And then we can put in here how much is our loan going to cost us. Let's say $114,500 a month. So we're going to get a $10 million loan. We're going to pay $114,000 a month on it. For it, and lo and behold, if we had to do that to set up this dough, we now see that we're actually, our return on investment, which is key driver in any business decision, and as Alexander points out, it's not a coincidence that ROI is the acronym for return on investment, and it's the acronym for rise of industry. Don't think that's a coincidence, but we're now losing money, so this would be a horrible thing to do. But if we could do it without the loan, which basically we could, in the case of a startup where we had $5 million, as long as we don't get too crazy with our roads and stuff, we could do this and we would start making a profit. We would be making a profit. And then this number over here tells us that if we're going to make a net, and let me move on. So then we would figure out, okay, we know we're making a profit because we can figure out how much we're going to average on selling our goods. Now, obviously, this doesn't tell us all the answers because it doesn't tell us all the good events and bad events that occur and price fluctuations and whatever. But on average, we're going to make this much money off of our dough. And I'll get into byproduct and surplus sales in a minute. And that's going to give us a monthly net income, our revenues minus our expenses, of $96,000. So we could expect to make about $96,000 a month under this kind of a setup trying to do a dough business. And this tells us that even on startup mode, we could make money running a single dough business. We wouldn't make a lot of money, and we'd have to be very patient before we could do our next build, but we could get there. And if you'll recall on that video, that's exactly what we saw. We saw struggling along, making our money. Whenever something bad happened, we would have a bad month. If something good happened, it would be a little better, but we would just struggle along, and we had to be really patient to move ahead. And finally, we jumped in, took a loan, built some waffles, and life was good. So let's think about the 1, 2, 3, 4, probably like the 5th video I did, where I put out one, which was the alternative approach for that same scenario. So what if we went more aggressive and went with our loans? So what we did on that one was we said, well, we have a demand of 1 in 15 for waffles. So let us build waffles in this on this map near this our home-based city. And now we can see, and we have to do all our research. So we've got a lot of research to do. It's going to cost a lot of money. And on top of that, it's going to cost a lot to set up a waffle business, but $15 million, if you take out a couple of loans, and I'm going to put in $300,000. I don't recall exactly how much we ended up paying in loan repayment. I don't think it was that much, but let's just say it was $300,000 each month that we're paying back on our loans to cover all this cost. We still are making a better profit than we did with the dough and no loans. And that's a very high number. If I make that maybe, I don't know, 250. Okay, there you can see we're making 4% on our money, and it's going to take us a couple of years to completely pay off. Oh, I didn't even explain that. This is a calculation of if I'm making this much, $634 per month net income, how long is it going to take me to recoup my initial investment? It's going to take us a couple of years, 24 months. So now we can see that after 2 years, we will have made enough money to have made all this money back, and we're just going to be making we're going to be in great shape, and we'll be really in good shape anyway right off the bat, because as soon as we put this out the door, we're going to be making that much. But if we could go ahead and meet the demand, watch this. If we go up to 2 waffle setups, and we take out enough money, and we need 21 million. So if we could get 10 and 10 plus our initial 5, we've got 25 million to play with. And let's go ahead and put this up to the really high. I don't think it was that high, but let's put it up to 300,000 a month we're paying back on our loans. Look at this. $1.6 million in revenue, which is about how I recall. That's about right. That's about what I remember from the game. 7% return, which is excellent. And in 14 months, we will have paid for all of this. And then we can start looking at repaying our loan, or better yet, take that money and invest it in something else. So basically what the spreadsheet now tells us is it allows us to make really good business decisions about what to build next. And it reinforces what I've been trying to say in the videos all along, which is build tier 3. Don't build little stuff, build tier 3. And try to find a strategy that gets you to your next tier 3 product, because that's where the money is. And this is on startup mode. Now, if you remember then we went over and we did a little series. We're in the middle of a series on normal mode. And on normal mode, we had our, as I call them, our beloved berry pies. And we jumped in with both feet, and we said, okay, we've got 10 million plus we got the ability to raise 20 million more in loans. We jumped in with both feet and said, we're going to build 2 berry pies right off the bat, took out those loans, and look at this. In 9 months, 2.5 million almost in monthly net income we would expect on this kind of a setup under normal difficulty, and a tremendous rate of return. And in 9 months, we've got ourselves recouped all of our initial investment. That tremendous amount of investment, we've recouped it all, and then we can start looking at paying loans, or what of course we would do is keep doing more business. So then we looked at, in that particular video, we didn't have any other tier 3s we could do. So if you recall, we did chicken soup. And we ended up doing one of those because there was only a demand for one. So 1.5 buildings is what the spreadsheet told us to build. We can't build a half. So we built one chicken soup factory, supported it with all the stuff it needed. And then we see that, now it didn't need any loans to support it, so it could make money. Now, if you had to go out and start a business with chicken soup and you had to get loans to cover it, what the spreadsheet tells you right away is don't do that. You will lose money. You'll actually lose money. And so that's what we did. We kept going on and on and on. So I hope you can see the value of kind of knowing, having a good idea of what your revenues and your costs project to be, what your upfront costs project to be, including your research. And again, I'll work on this to make this all inclusive. But right now, it just kind of gives you the research for each of these items that show up. And there are other precursors that may or may not be on here. So we'll work on that. I'll work on that. But anyway, that's the new state of the spreadsheet. I think it's just, I've been playing with it, just actually literally going through scenarios. And I'll give you an example. Remember I said if you do a startup, and you go out and try to do something that looks so obvious to do. You're going to set up wood, and you're going to run like 4 wood, which would meet the demand of the city, and you'll have a nice steady supply of wood going into that city. Because of your tough margins, because you make less money, and because your upkeep is higher and everything else, and watch this. See how we got 31 and 33. If I've moved this to normal, look at this, 10,000 and 37,000. Our revenues went up a little. Our costs went way down. That's why startup mode is difficult, because your upkeep gets so high. And literally so high that you cannot run these simple products. They will lose you money. You will lose $19,000 a month projected under this scenario doing wood, even though you didn't have to do any research, you didn't have to take out any loans. Everything seemed cool. It seemed like an obvious thing to do, and you will bleed. You will just bleed yourself to death. And if you set up wood and oil and gas and fish and everything that you think are obvious money makers for you, every one of them will lose money for you. And that's in startup mode now. Now, if we go to normal, that's different. In normal mode, you can make a profit doing that kind of an approach. But again, why would you want $22,000 a month of revenue when you can go berry pies, set up a couple of those, and go $2.7 million in monthly revenue? I personally prefer the 2.7 million. No, it won't be that much. Let me throw a big loan amount in there. Okay, $2.4 million in normal. So I hope you see the power of that. I hope you see the power of this stuff. We all should give Aleksander a big thank you. I left out another great functionality put in there. Let's go back to our chicken soup. Remember the chicken soup, no, it wasn't chicken meat, it was chicken soup. Chicken soup. There we go. And we did one of them. All right. So we did one chicken soup and paid for our research, and but we didn't need a loan for it, so we're making some money. But you'll notice there are byproducts. The chicken, that livestock farm for chickens is also growing eggs, or producing eggs, excuse me. We're producing eggs. And we've got a little bit of wheat that we're also producing that we don't quite need. We don't quite need all the wheat that we're producing. So let's sell the byproducts. If you'll notice, if we sell the byproducts, we get additional revenue. Now, this is actually, Aleksander originally had this set up as the full revenue of the byproduct. I've actually set it to be the full revenue in half. So you're getting half the value that you would expect if eggs were your primary focus. And the reason I did that is because when you sell these, you may or may not be able to sell them in the town next to you. Good chance you won't be able to. Your dispatch costs will go up as you have to travel farther. The ability to take them off on a timely basis will go down. So, and this is just a totally arbitrary number on my part, but I just cut that in half so that we could say, okay, if we have a chicken soup business and we're producing eggs on the side and wheat, and we can sell those, well, the eggs first, the byproduct, we can make extra money on the eggs, or get more revenue. Then if we sell our surplus, which is the extra chicken meat that we don't need for the soup and the extra wheat that we don't need for the chicken farm, then we can make some more money. And I cut that one in half as well, because again, you're not going to be able to, ship these right. You're not going to be so lucky as to be able to sell them right there in the town next to you for high profit all the time. But at any rate, you will be able to make some money on them. So this bumps our money up, and now we're making pretty good money. So if you go back and say, don't sell the byproducts, we're making $200,000. But if we can sell the byproducts and sell the surplus, we're making almost double that. So that just shows you the power of these livestock farms, for one thing. But at any rate, this just shows you how if you can sell off your surpluses, sell off your byproducts, you can make these things even more profitable. But again, back to the power of this, figure out your demand. And by the way, you'll be able to update the difficulty. You'll be able to update the quantity and these tiles, although I don't recommend you don't necessarily have to mess with those unless you want to. You can change the research. You can do all the items that are needed to get me to chicken soup, or you can do just that item. If you happen to have researched all the way up to chicken soup, you can research just that item. Or you can say, nah, I've got my research covered. I'm good. I don't need any. And you can put in any loan amounts that you want to cover with this investment. And you can decide, am I going to sell or not sell my byproducts and my surplus? and then it does all the rest of the work for you. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, because you still have to pick a product and say how many you're going to make. So there's 10 fields now rather than 3 that you can update. Everything else will be locked, but you'll be able to update those fields and really get yourself a good picture. And if you don't care about all the money stuff, I mean, you should if you're going to play this particular game. But if you don't, this will work just like the version we had right up until now. If you just go quantity, number, and product, and it'll give you that same build out of what you need to build to make an efficient set good ratios and have an efficient little set or a good efficient little supply chain to run your business. So one more time, thank you, Alexander. Great work. I hope you guys enjoy this. I think it's going to be really good. And I am going to give you a little quick teaser right now. Okay, so here's the little teaser. This is our same map that we've been using for our normal playthrough, our Iberia. And this is on down the road a little bit. What happened was, of course, we had built out in our our previous episodes, we had built out so that we're supplying everything to the diner that the diner can take. And we decided we wanted something to do while we waited for our next great opportunity. So I have gone out and we've started sending, we did this beautiful interior linings business into Oberon. But we also wanted to go ahead and pump some more things into the ironmongery in Oberon. And I have gone out and said, you know what? When you got to deal with all these raw resources, building these sets like we have down here for our berry pies, that can get old. So remember down here we had, what was it? Ceramics, a ceramics business. And over here we had diodes business. Well, if you'll notice, it's changed a bit, and I'm going to walk us through that, but I have kind of a new design I like a lot better, and my goal is to actually turn these kind of industries into plug and play, where I literally can say, okay, I want to build X industry, plug it into my system, and just start, and it goes. And I'm really happy with how this turned out, and look at all that green, all these beautifully functioning industries, and I want to share that with you in the next video. So let's go back to our spreadsheet now, and one more time say thank you, Alexander, for some great work. I hope I didn't mess up what you did too badly. I think it's still okay. It's still working, so I didn't screw it up too badly. So I think you guys are going to love this, and enjoy the game. And I had one more thing I just thought of that I needed to share with you. When you get this spreadsheet, click on the link, the spreadsheet will come up, then hit File, make a copy, and save that copy off, save that URL so that you can find it easily and use the copy. And the reason you want to use the copy is so that you aren't competing with all the rest of us for updating those fields. Because what will happen, and I've seen this in action because I've seen it. I've seen other people updating and changing records I thought I was putting in there. So if you're actually using the spreadsheet as intended and setting up your difficulty and your what product you want and all that stuff, and somebody else goes in behind you, they could change it before you even had a chance to act. So get the spreadsheet, and then do File, make a copy, and use that copy, and that way you won't have any problems with conflicts with other people. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it'll help you become a better player, and I hope you'll join us for our next Rise of Industry video. Thank you.